So today I want to look at Roadhouse 2024. Where do I start? I guess it was Tall Order. How does one even make a remake of a cheesy classic that was a rose-tinted bomb of its day? Now it still surprises me how many people love this original. And hey, it's a good time. Swayze was the man of the 80s. Mullet having, throat ripping, chisel badass dude. And this is not a comparison. I'm simply going to review the 2024 film, Roadhouse, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Directed by Bourne Identity director Doug Liman, this movie is fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously and it has some great fight scenes. The setup's pretty simple. I don't really want to go into the story too much because honestly, it's just worth watching. It's kind of funny actually. It does start off with a cage match going on, and one of the characters, Frankie, she's looking for a bloke to come and be a bouncer for her because you definitely go hire your bouncers from freaking underground fighting joints, right? And it's kind of fun. We get Austin Post Malone, Ray Fillet, slugging it out in a cage match, and that's kind of good. Um, you know, eh, he dispatches his opponent, and you find fighter enters, which is Dalton, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He shows his abs, and Post Malone won't fight him because he's got too good abs. Oh no, because he's badass. And so Dalton takes the money and goes to leave. He gets knifed by a guy who lost his money, and then he meets Frankie, who offers him the job while he's literally there with a knife in his gut. Bit silly. Now, the movie's littered with tropes, nonsensical situations, a totally unnecessary love interest that goes nowhere. Add some Giga Chad, evil white dudes, and boom, Roadhouse. And at least it had the decency to point out how silly it all is by having a kid from a bookstore explain Lone Wanderer kind of Western stories and how pulpy and crap they are. And then we've got Dalton, who's a nice guy with a dark side. It's pretty clumsily handled here. A lot of flashbacks that just, I don't know. There's probably a million ways they could have done this better. Little value or care is taken with this, killed his mate in a ring, but we won't know why. Sorry, spoiler there. Uh, it's good at being what it is, however, and for that I'll give it some credit. It knows it's trash, but it has fun with it. I mean, the bad guys are over the top, and Jake puts on a great performance, and likable and violent. He's funny, yet scary. His heightened comic take sort of makes it a bit more enjoyable. I did have fun with this. The quips were gold. For the most part, the action's awesome, but I've been seeing a lot of people are just raging because they believe that the original was some untouchable film that was a work of art, and it wasn't and isn't. Roadhouse is to bar fights as Stone Cold is to biker films. Enjoyable trash junk food for the brain. Uh, the original wasn't looked at that fondly at the time of its release. It's actually because of the VHS market that it really did good. So, if you like trashy, fun, just waste 2 hours sort of stuff, you might have a fun time with this. The pacing was okay. Never lingered too long, perhaps with the love interest, but that's just the padding anyway. That there's not much going on there. Performance-wise, that's all fine too, but it's just a little lackluster in some areas, a little clunky. The main bad dude here is Ben Brandt, played by Billy Magnuson. Now, almost time I've seen this guy in a movie, he's like Chad douche bro. He does it well though, and he knows how to villain. He's the typical rich, white-teethed, smiley douchebag guy. Awesome though, great performance. And then sort of halfway through, we get another villain, Knox, who works for Ben's father. And Knox, played by the unruly Irish bastard himself, Conor McGregor, and he absolutely freaking kills it on screen. I was pleasantly surprised. He's always been like really entertaining to watch. Like this guy kind of was born to be an asshole, like in film, I mean, partially in real life, I guess. And I mean, this guy oozes nasty. His scenes are great. There's so much comedy in his film, and personally, I love it. Now, some people have criticized the CGI, and yeah, some of it's a little rough. For the most part, I didn't find that it distracts from the story, even though it's a real simple one. If I had to say what I enjoy about remakes, I think it's the opportunity to lean into the criticism of the original. And this goes hard. Like, if you're a purist that doesn't know what fun is, then, keep telling yourself that the 80s are an untouchable, holy, grail of film that deserves to be untouched. You know, the only thing I'm sort of against remaking is pretty much The Crow. And, I'm not saying this is perfect, but, it's one of those things. I think if they made it better, it would undoubtedly be a worse film for it. Like, I mean, I'd give this like, you know, a good, a good 3 stars. It's daring to be fun and stupid. It doesn't really need to be anything too serious. And that's where, for the most part, it's pretty fun. The fight scenes are fairly well choreographed. The actions, you know, I think the moderate amount. I think if they went any further with it, this guy would just get locked up. It's definitely feels like it's set in its own world. I mean, the fact that it's set in Florida says a lot. We always hear, Florida man stories. And so, I mean, like, you could almost buy that this could happen in Florida. Yeah, I think it was same with the action, where it's that over exaggerated. The good thing is he's not just spin kicking everyone every 2 seconds. The performances all around are pretty good. It looks like everyone was actually in on the joke. It feels like a solid B film. It's like one of the best attempts of capturing that cheesy uh, roadhouse, blind fury, no retreat, no surrender kind of feel. That, so many 80s films, especially with all the martial arts stuff, like, you got Bloodsport, that has not aged well either. And it just feels like it's trying to recapture that vibe. Nothing crazy, nothing, they're definitely not doing anything here that really amazing. But they're doing it well enough. I mean, if you want a predictable yet amusing fight film that feels, you know, easy going, you don't have to invest too much here, which is nice. Another good thing about this film, it's got the best leprechaun since Warwick Davis. Yeah, it's definitely somewhere around a 3 star, I think, for me. The film was nearly a reboot, was nearly made in a reboot back in 2015. It was set to star Ronda Rousey, and while that could have been an interesting choice, I'm kind of glad it never happened. I mean, she was okay in the A-Team reboot. However, she really fits the world of WWE with her sense of line delivery. Yeah, like, it was just a thing at the time. I think that she was at sort of the peak of her popularity, and yeah, it kind of would have worked. Like, Ronda Rousey's fine and funny, but I think there would be way more problems attached to this if they had a female lead. Like, just the internet hates that, and, they'd probably go off. Yeah, so this, like, exists in its own little time bubble of 80s nostalgia. Really hits, that VHS popularity thing. You'd go see a movie. You'd always get movies back then that were deliberately bad. Or maybe not deliberately bad, but better with repeated viewing, like the cult classic stuff. I mean, even that cult status, I think that's a really overrated and overused term. Quite often, film was just bad, but there's something about it that, people, for some reason, keep liking. I'm not sure that the original even deserves cult status, but I mean, it has. It's got there. You look at things like Family Guy, it's been riffed on a fair chunk. And to its credit, I suppose that's what keeps people going back. Did we need another Roadhouse? Did we need a remake? Heck no. But it was nice to see something pop out of the blue and just have a bit of fun. So I do think if you liked Blind Fury, No Retreat, No Surrender, Bloodsport, anything in the 80s there which was about roided up monsters pretending they're the average Joe, which is in 80s action, that's like completely hard to ignore. Or even if you like the original, Swayze was probably not the first choice. And, same thing here, I think, with Jake Gyllenhaal. He doesn't fit the mold of the average, of an average Joe, nor does he look superhuman. I think it was actually cool putting him in there. I mean, he has the acting chops. He looks as fit as a Mallee Bull here. He's trim, he's cut. His casting's kind of inspired because it's not like a typical action star that you might expect, that you might see in something like this. I mean, you could imagine this film being a Jason Statham, putting The Rock in it. I mean, there's definitely a time where that probably damn near happened. And I think it would just feel off. Like Statham's great at what he does, and I honestly love his stuff. But he knows what he's doing. Yeah, I think going against the grain here just makes the film better, more enjoyable. Runtime's pretty tight. It's shot competently enough. Certainly not amazing cinematography, and yeah, some of the effects are a little jank. But you know, if you can put all that out of your mind and just enjoy it for what it is, I think you'll find 2024's Roadhouse is actually quite enjoyable. You know, it's available on Amazon Prime. Go watch it if that's your sort of thing. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe.